我哋三師兄弟啊，其實就係點講咧？嗰個關係就係由學校都保持到有，即係本身都學校三個人關係都好好噶啦。就跟住出嚟去拍做農夫武師啦。咁洪金寶係佢係早過我同阿成龍啦，早過我同成龍，咁就佢就入行早過我哋，咁佢就已經我哋入行嗰時，佢已經係好有興趣喺娛樂圈發展嘅啦。即係佢又做武術指導啊，即係佢好蝕底嘅。即係我聽，即係我哋未同佢一齊，佢出嚟咧，佢乜嘢都做嘅。即係乜嘢佢都要睇啊，機器佢又要八卦，又要即係好多人都覺得哇，你哋靚仔咩都要理嘅。即係導演，即係甚至乎我哋出嚟拍戲啦，譬如有好多導演一拍戲嗰時咧，佢都自動阿Sammo，你搞掂佢啦。即係佢係有一個咁嘅態度，對電影嘅態度。佢係所謂俾我哋師兄弟嚟講，佢係屬於代表㗎。佢係喺我哋師兄弟嚟代表㗎。就跟住出去拍戲咧，咁我同成龍兩個咧就做農夫武師咧，跟佢嘅，都跟過去嘅。跟過去咁啊，拍下咁啊，我就一直同阿洪金寶一齊，我都做佢嘅副武術指導啊。咁啊，成龍就喺邵氏嗰陣時就，我記得係佢冇撈武師一輪時間就去咗做李漢祥嘅演員嘅，做下演員咧就做下，即係我哋幾師兄弟啊就唔得噶啦，香港武俠片冇人睇喎，就拍晒啲咩戲啊？以前香港咩秦祥林啊、秦漢啊、咩甄珍啊，即係所謂嗰啲戲啦。咁啊，大家各散東西啦。咁就成龍啊返澳洲啦，我就去美國，我就去咗美國做嘢。咁啊，洪金寶就冇咩時事嘅喺香港。就耐唔耐啊？一年就拍一部戲咁啦，即係一部戲動作片梗有嘅，咁啊分開晒㗎啦。啊，後來就有某一年嘅時間，唔知我記得係1973年嘅時候，咁啊洪金寶打電話俾我，喂，Biao你翻嚟香港啦，香港而家開始有啲動作片拍㗎啦，而家即係所謂嗰啲咩愛情戲啊唔興啦，而家咁啊係啊係咩？咁啊好啦，我73年翻嚟香港，咁啊跟阿洪金寶，咁啊成龍咧跟咗阿羅偉公司就去咗台灣做男主角啦，已經拍好多戲㗎啦。佢嗰陣時，咁我同洪金寶就喺香港就專門嗰時接啲所謂武術指導啲戲啦，咩嘉禾好多啦，黃峰導演啊，咩以前好多啊伊雷啊咩做導演嗰時，通通都係我哋去做武術指導嘅。咁啊拍下就咁啊。就形成咗咁嘅開始興動作片咁時，咁我哋三個兄弟咁啊，洪金寶第一個見阿成龍啊喺挪威度拍嚟拍去拍唔紅喎，後來俾阿袁和平拍到有啲聲色喎，咁啊嘉禾公司話Sammo你都自己拍啦，佢又自己又拍下做男主角喎，咩拍鐘米六啊、三德和尚啊嗰啲嘢咁啊後嚟。拍下咁，我係一直做副武術指導嘅啫，跟住一直睇幫佢手嘅。咁啊拍冇，喂佢啊老細叫你試下喎，咁啊叫我得唔得啊？我唔得嘅喎，我咁啊好啦，你去試下啦。咁啊我又拍，咁啊拍咁啊大家做咗演員都唔知。咁佢成龍啊不嬲都好有，即係佢都係渴望做演員㗎啦，因為佢同李漢祥啊、協理啊、陳志強嘅公司啊，好多公司，羅偉公司有啲四圍做演員㗎啦，就好早㗎啦，成龍已經。但係洪金寶咧就做幕後多，佢一直落咧就做下咧。所謂我一出嚟拍電影嗰時咧，佢都幾乎唔拍啦，佢就專心做導演啦。咁啊，成日多數咧，我啲戲咧，洪金寶都開始拍我好多部嘅，佢都嚇。咁後來一直都係一齊咁咯嚇。我同成龍就喺一個廣場度，專門係揸住個快餐車喺度賣嘢嘅。咁啊有一日咧，就有一個女仔咧，就喺嗰個廣場入邊咧，就出現咗。原來嗰度咧有好多即係嗰啲妓女，又係原來呢個咧就係嗰啲係一個伯爵嘅女嚟嘅。咁佢好細個，唔知失散咗定係乜嘢。 咁啊流落咗喺呢個廣場度，就唔知點解做咗即係嗰啲妓女咁啊！佢係扮妓女，就專門呃人錢嘅。咁啊俾啲客人追佢，就一走咗上我哋快餐車度。我哋庇護佢啦，就帶咗翻屋企。帶咗翻屋企，兩個人都即係好想同呢個女仔即係兩個人都鬥氣啦。兩個人喺度即係唔俾啊，個女仔就即係啊兩個即係發生咗啲咁嘅問題啊！你兩個好朋友啦，即係兩個都唔好咩啦。咁啊流落咗喺我屋企。第二日咧一起身咧，原來又偷晒我哋啲嘢。即係我咪話成個你成個留人喺屋企啊！嗱，咪又偷晒你啲嘢，咁啊又人哋有即係佢仲喺度死，即係兩個人仲喺度維護，又鬧人又維護佢咁樣一個咁嘅女仔咯。咁後來慢慢俾我哋知道，哦，原來呢個女仔係個伯爵個女嚟嘅。我哋嗰時諗都係咁樣諗嘅，即係盡量都唔使話好似以前啲戲咁樣練功啊，哇擺好晒啲架撐啊，又話要咁樣練咁樣練啊，冇嘅。我哋就係原則就係一樣嘢，就係一個好有外國人 feel 嘅詠春一個裝，就係一個木人裝嘅啫。因為所有外國人都好認識呢樣嘢嘅詠春，因為可能嗰陣時我哋又拍過啲詠春啲戲啦，即係覺得係好實際嘅嗰啲嘢嚇，就唔係話咁機械化嗰啲練功方式。因為我哋架車擺咗喺一個廣場度送貨，即係送外賣。行路即係覺得冇乜意思啊！即係咪特登去請日本一個滑板玩呢啲嘅 rolling 高手嚟教我哋兩個去日日我哋未開呢部戲之前，我同成龍已經係三個人已經一早去咗㗎啦。洪金寶去睇外景，我哋兩個日就喺個公園度練滑板嘅，係即係臨時即係拍嗰部戲先至開始接觸嗰樣嘢嘅嚇。係日本嗰陣時，日本好流行嘅，大受傷就冇，但係成日都達到黐線㗎啦嚇，即係成日都係踩兩踩啊，即係就搭咗落去，即係因為唔係我哋嗰家嚟㗎嘛呢啲，即係一定係臨時要學嚟拍戲啊，又要倒立啊，又要成好麻煩嘅玩嗰啲嘢，都唔係我哋由細到大我哋都冇呢啲娛樂活動嘅，我哋喺學校。就因為成日就練功啊，瞓醒練功做戲咁啊，冇娛樂㗎。我哋最叻就係乒乓波咁啊，揼塊板。師傅又冇娛樂俾我哋寄宿咁，10年8年都係嚇。所以呢個唯一嘅戶外活動咧，而家我都識呢個運動我都得嚇。即係我負責跳落地嘅啫，總之人哋即係總之我哋就係要個效果就係我要跳出嚟嘅落個帳篷度，個帳篷一收咗，你就直接跳落地下。即係我哋預先就係咁樣設計，但係問題就係最難就係跳落嚟都唔係難，篷收都唔係難，係最難就係你落地下點樣俾人感覺你好似坐咗落去。如果你真正咁樣坐落去，你人都死梗㗎你。但係我哋問題就係要做到。好似其實隻腳同個囉柚係同一時間要一齊到，係最難就係呢樣嘢嚇。我諗全部戲，我諗係呢個動作係好難嘅，仲有好多動作通通硬食嘅。以前冇邊有得俾你話咩榻榻米啊？我哋唔興呢啲嘢嘅，有呢啲嘢就唔真實㗎啦，冇人睇㗎啦。呢啲你知唔知？一定要堅嘅一樣，真嘅一樣做到嚇。嗰場戲咪就因為嗰外國人啊嘛，外國人佢就即係因為西洋劍咧，其實根本就去到外國嘅，根本就係嘛。但係我哋設計一個西洋劍出嚟，咁啊當時嗰個演員又係唔得嘅。你話嗌我打西洋劍，其實我哋都唔識嘅。我哋就當時咪走去揾下睇下呢，即係揾下啲帶啊，睇下打西洋劍係點樣嘅一回事啊，再加入我哋嗰啲中國武術嗰啲劍術啊咁樣。設計出嚟咯，但係個演員佢都做唔到，佢做就係即係佢就係咁樣喐下咁樣就得，一打咧就打就係打唔到嘅，點都唔得。同埋我哋入邊所謂我哋自己嗰班人啦，我哋自己入邊嗰班龍虎武師啊，即係可能點講咧？可能洪金寶對我信心大啲，佢話喐你嚟，我話好。 橫掂都分晒一 part 咁啊，我又同另外一個咁啊，佢又阿成龍又同另外一 part 咁啊，佢梗係要揾個同佢夾手啲嚟打啦。咁啊，我嚟同你打啦，因為我時間又慳翻好多，同埋大家係夾慣，咁啊，所以做出嚟啊好多嘢。你一嚟，你一下我一下，即係大家設計到好易設計到出嚟啦。以我想像中嗰陣時，阿蔡瀾做製片，去揾法國呢隊車手喺歐洲嚟講係好出名嘅，拍戲好出名嘅。佢好似係拍過唔知拍過啲鐵金剛啊，類似係嗰啲系列嘅戲嘅呢隊特技車手嚇。佢好快㗎，呢度撞完車啦，佢哋有架車咁樣加3兩下就掹翻出嚟啊！咁啊整好咗噴油，第二架車就出現㗎啦。即係好叻㗎，好專業到不得了嘅。有一個我哋有一個同事死鬼柯受良，就幫喺佢哋呢度學到好多嘢嘅，跟佢哋學到好多呢啲咁嘅飛車。佢而家飛越黃河啊嗰啲，通通都係跟呢紮法國人學嘅。其實成部戲娛樂性係好豐富嘅，娛樂性係好豐富。最有深刻一場戲，你俾我而家嚟睇，而家嚟我都好難。但係你一場場嚟講，我都覺得有好多場都好，我哋都落咗好多心機去拍攝出嚟嘅。譬如你話飛車，當年香港電影有幾多飛車嘅戲啫？即係我哋都會去自己部門唔做得嘅，咁參考外國㗎啦，即係揾多啲好嘅外國嘅車手啊，同埋最緊要就係啲動作設計啦，即係好啲細節嘅嘢啊，即係唔係話打就打，即係好多好巧妙嘅嘢。譬如你話2樓跳落嚟啊，呢啲根本你永遠都記得嘅，因為呢啲動作係出嚟有效果，而係點講咧？即係可能當年紀又後生啲啊，即係 fit 啲啊，即係好 fit 啊，即係研究到啲咩動作都可以做得到嚇。好多即係所謂當年呢部戲嘅喺香港嚟講，啲動作片嚟講，都係屬於好一部動作片嚟嘅呢個。佢個仔，我個仔，成龍個仔啦，差唔多啊！睇我哋合作咧，只係即係回憶下就得㗎啦。即係你話而家睇咩戲啦都唔擔保話唔合作嘅。即係所謂而家你話要好似做到以前快餐車啊咁樣，就冇可能㗎啦。即係所謂呢啲咧，就係等佢個仔，我哋大家嘅仔仲有啲咁嘅機會。你要揾翻我哋三位再拍翻呢啲戲咧，就好難㗎啦。即係你話做長一輩啲嘅咧，即係類似咁嘅做長輩啲嘅咧都 OK 嘅。即係你話動作都得，而家都得嘅，但係就冇以前嗰種你想點就點啊！而家就唔可以話，喂，我以前我哋拍起富豪酒店幾高啊，10幾樓係咁跳落去㗎啦，以前喺沙田嗰啲未起啊，我哋借嚟拍戲啦已經要嚟，哇爆炸跳落去啦！我哋拍好多戲啊，我拍4樓啊咁樣，係咁樣個關鬥打落地下，以前眯埋隻眼我唔驚嘅，直情你唔通嗌我哋而家咁啊，冇可能㗎嘛而家嚇，即係而家只可以教啲後生嗱，你咁樣以我經驗，你應該咁樣做咁就得，而家時機唔得啦。
想話將嗰個城市嘅背景咧，希望觀眾有啲新鮮感啦。咁然之後去過幾個地方咧，然之後睇落去西班牙嘅巴塞隆納嗰個 city 係即係好好咯。咁然之後就我喺嗰邊喺嗰度去寫一個劇本，係喺嗰度拍嘅，知咁。冇，因為我都係講翻中文，所以就係唔緊要。佢一同我講就 no complaint 到 Español。 唔識講嘢，咁要同我講英文就 no complaint English only Chinese，咁其實係冇問題嘅。如果去各個每個地方去拍，因為你要拍嘅唔係西班牙文嘅電影，你係拍部中國電影。咁然之後，只不過係你話同啲工作人員去溝通啊成啊，我覺得係都唔係一個太大問題啊，所以冇問題。嗰個地方係相當好，即係佢有好不同嘅建築啊，全部喺晒度啊。咁啊，其實就好熱鬧，即係其實俾人睇到一個遊客區咁啦，即係一個 plaza 咁嘅感覺。好靚啊，即係記得好好啊。咁然之後，我哋自己再去陳設一個露天嘅 restaurant 啊喺度啊。咁然之後柯受良喺度飛個 motorcycle 啊。咁我然之後會喺度 fighting scene in there，感覺啊，梗係好深啦，因為我同佢都係好耐朋友啦，同埋我哋都合作過好多部戲啦，同埋佢好後生，我哋大家就已經識啦。咁啊，所以佢嘅不幸，我哋都心口好唔舒服。因為我要揾一個稍微真係好打得嘅，同埋嗰個反派個對手去同佢 Jackie Chan 打。咁然之後人哋亦都話呢個 Benny the Jack 係好咩？咁然之後 send 咗好多佢嘅 video tape from me。然之後佢所有嘅喺比賽嗰啲嘅動作啊，同埋打低人嘅感覺啊，成啊。咁我覺得佢係相當適合去同佢 Jackie Chan 去嗰陣時去決鬥啊，打嗰場戲。Benny 係一個 very smart，very smart guy，smart guy。Whatever you just tell him， 咁樣做啊，就 fight like that，佢係 perfect，is very very good。我覺得 Benny 咧就喺西班牙咧係挑戰過西班牙啲人去踢館，所以所謂踢館啊，去踢過西班牙啲館。但係 Benny 唔會喺我哋嘅 crew 入邊去做任何傷害對方嘅嘢。咁我諗成龍亦都唔會去做呢樣嘢。咁呢啲都可能係傳説嚟嘅。但係一樣真嘅就係 Benny 就即係真係喺西班牙去踢過2個館，係咁。因為我睇過佢好多戲啊，我覺得佢好 funny，咁我揾一個人嚟客串啊，就做一個 boss 啊，外國人啊，咁我忽然間喺唔係戲咁多，我諗到佢好啱做呢個角色，咁啊請嚟試下咯，即係咁咯。冇啊，即係試下每一部戲唔好都係一樣啊嘛。咁啊同埋試下即係話唔係本港人啊，喺外國嘅人啊，外國人乜都有嘅啊。你而家睇下而家啲中文嗰個 character 係古靈精怪都有嘅，咁其實係想自己轉一轉嗰個形象啫，即係每樣嘢你背景啊、地方啊、西班牙啊、乜嘢啊，咁你希望成個戲自己每一個 character 或者地方嘅人啊個造型啊，都希望新少少。有一個冇乜所謂，有機會就梗係好啦，冇機會冇得勉強。其實藝術呢方面啊、電影嗰方面啊、係娛樂啊、性啊。你有機會去就大家再重新去組合過一個咁嘅嘢去再做一樣嘢，我覺得係好嘅。如果你諗唔到嘢成啊，就係唔係幾好啊？咁你不必要再合作。永遠將個好嘅嘢都俾人哋記喺個腦入邊，唔好將啲唔好嘅嘢俾人睇，即係咁樣。其實係有機會梗好啦。有機會就係其實都懷念嘅，因為我哋自細我9歲10歲大家喺一齊。咁到而家今年28歲，咁你話都好多年，我冇因為我唔知，同埋我冇驚訝嘅，因為呢啲全部都係我 以往嘅作品啊，以往嘅戲啊，而家重新做受歡迎啊，成日咪開心係咁咯，聽到咪開心下咯。我唔會好驚訝，唔會好成啊嚇咁啊，因為驚訝都冇用嘅啊，你始終都要面對將來啊，成啊，你希望將來嘅嘢受歡迎啊，咁你就會特別開心啲啊。
In my school, the kind of students I attract, doctors, lawyers, actors, stunt people, dancers, break dancers. I have so many different type of people in my gym. They come in, it's like a melting pot. I'm the bridge. It becomes a sanctuary to most people. They come here. Most of my students, they come here, they get a chance to release anger, fear, frustration, anxiety. They get a chance to release all that. At the same time, they get a chance to really understand on their journey on this earth, that how to deal, instead of reacting, learning how to proact. Most people get fed physically. That's external stuff, okay? But internal means how you perceive things mentally, how you deal with your anger, your fear, your frustration, your anxieties. How do you deal with them? And that's what the Breakfast Club is about, is learning how. In other words, everything under your bed, in your closet, when somebody puts a threat to you, it comes up. Somebody threatening you, all that emotion will come up, unless you're drunk. And then it comes up either way. My job is to give you different windows. For the windows of your eyes and how you perceive it, I'll give you different windows of the same thing, so that way it makes sense to you, so you can move forward in your life, so you can recognize when somebody touches those nerves outside, you won't react to them because you already recognize them and you know how to deal with them. So it's a way of life. That's what Yukido-kan means. It means a way of life, and that's what I'm teaching them. Because, being in the ring, you only last so long in there in the ring. The square jungle represents their home, represents their work, represents around their peers. It represents knowing how to deal with that energy that's around you. It's about really teaching them about themselves. It's a way of life. What I really would like to add to all the fans, that's actually watching this, that I would really like to say, hey, we didn't come here just to get married, have a family, have a dog in a boat, and that's, the journey is to really understand ourselves, understand about love. Because I don't care, love is not for free. Love you gotta earn, you gotta keep working on love to keep it going. And everything you do, if you don't do it for love, then it will disappear. You'll get tired of it. And I'm always a strong believer, everything in moderation. Because if you love something or someone so much, it changes to needy, to wanted, gotta have. And if it's not enough love, then it feels like I'm not good enough. You see, so there's gotta be a happy medium. And life is the same way. That's what I teach here. And for everybody that's watching this, if you can actually really understand, if you can't do it for love, then I guarantee you it won't last long. It has to be for the love of it. Everybody's looking for that peace of mind on this journey. And the peace of mind really has to start from you. And so I tell everybody that watches this interview, I'm telling you, when you go on this journey, do it for the love of it. That's all I can tell you. I am teaching stunt acting right now at the, at the Lee Strasberg Academy. I'm teaching picture fighting, which is for for the movies. And then I'm teaching stage combat, which is for live audience. So that way they're actually, where live audience is a different type of choreography and type of training. Using the audience's emotions, using their energy to feed on as a bounce back. But when you're doing it on camera, you're using the actor. Or sometimes you're just looking in a camera and you're talking to all the people out there. So it's a lot more acting. So I'm doing both. And so far, man, it's been really, really well. I have people from all over the world. I get a chance to actually teach them really all my experience that I've had through all my career. And I actually teaching them so they be able to act it out, the emotions that go behind it. And so far, it's been wonderful. I've been getting calls and emails and stuff like that from everywhere. I'm a strong believer that I was given so much at this point in time in my life. And I still got a lot of piss and vinegar in me. I still got a lot of in me. And I'm just giving back to the people my experience and my knowledge. Because I have had a chance. This is my 47th year, actually, in the arts. And I count my blessings. I get up feeling great. No aches, no pain, no arthritis, no nothing. My head's not twitching. I can still understand myself. So I count my blessings. So far, so good. And I'm just giving back to the public. My father was a professional boxer. My mother was a professional wrestler. There's 9 black belts in my family. Did I have a choice? I don't know. I was, at the age of 5 years old, I was boxing Pee Wee division. And by the time I was 7 years old, I was already starting Kempo karate. And from there, I went to Shotokan, went into Lima Lama, I went to Taekwondo, went into Judo, Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu. Then I started Sovat, and I just continued on. So it was something in my, I guess it was just in my blood. In 58, I was boxing. 60, I started Judo. 63, I started Kempo karate. And then I was competing all the way up until 73. Late 73, full contact karate came in. And that was the name of it. And everybody kept on saying, what's full contact karate? And we kept on explaining. So they said, oh, you mean you box and then you kick? And so the word kickboxing was born in 75 when I fought the first Muay Thai fighter. So I'm the last of the Mohicans. I started when it was full contact karate, which it was a World Series of Martial Arts. That was in late 73, early 74. And then PKA was going at the same time. And I became the champion of the World Series of Martial Arts. And then I went into PKA. And then it went into WKA. And then it went into NKL. And then it went on and on. So I hold, I forgot how many titles I hold. As every association that came out, I took the title. And they came and they're gone, and I'm still around. Nobody's ever undefeated because there's always somebody out there for some reason. I only count title defenses. I hold 63 title defenses. I defended my title 63 times, and I'm 63-0 with 57 KOs. Now I've had over 200 fights, but it was much easier to count title defenses. I believe that, it's like anything else. What controls the mind controls the body, which houses the spirit. And I believe mentally, I can't be beaten. Even if you beat me, I don't believe that until you beat me again. Then I say, okay, I'll take my hat off and I say, okay, then it's time for you. But as far as I'm concerned, to this day, I don't believe I can be beaten. So I believe it's a mental thing. My mind is telling the body that it can't be defeated, no matter what. I mean, tell you, I've had some great shots, shin kicks in the head and knees to the head and stuff, and I just don't believe my body can handle it. Not that I like taking hits, because, if I took all the shots that most people did, I wouldn't be talking right now. My head be twitching, I'd still be stuttering. So I think that it's my will and desire, how bad I want it. When people were eating, I was running. When people were sleeping, I was working out. I wanted it bad. My hip is going forward, I got to the point where I hold 6 titles in 5 weight divisions, and I can't get any heavier, otherwise I'd be a sumo wrestler, I can't get that heavy. So in 73, I did a movie called Down the Drain. And it was by mistake, really. I went there to see my friend. And for some reason, the director liked my look, and he put me a certain place, and he thought I was all part of it. So I started being part of it, and I started kicking and punching and so forth. And at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun, and they told me to come back. And so I said, sure, I'll come back. And, it was really funny how it all happened because, I didn't sign in, I didn't sign out, I didn't do anything. I was just there. For how I got in and out, it was, by a higher level than me, that's for sure. And it was by mistake, but I love fighting. I started fighting, and then at the same time I was doing movies, back and forth. I started to do the movies.
I've been making films since I was 8 years old, and my films when I was 8 years old were I was a martial artist. I was doing karate, and my films when I was little were kind of kung fu films, meet blaxploitation films, meet like Miami Vice episodes, because I grew up in Miami. And then my dream was to go to NYU Film School, and I went to NYU Film School when I was 16. And I did a lot of short films. And one of my short films I sent to 40 of the biggest people in the industry, and I got 39 of the nicest rejection letters. And then I got a call from the dean of the university that Steven Spielberg was looking for me. And I couldn't get him on the phone. It was the right number, but I couldn't get him on the phone. And finally, this woman called me back, his producer, Kathleen Kennedy, and she said that Steven loved the scene, my clip from my movie, but they don't give money. And I said, but you don't understand. I'm going to be a big director like Steven Spielberg. And eventually, I got a check from Steven Spielberg, and I went crazy. I blew it up the size of my wall. I would show it to girls in the hallway to try to impress them. And that film was my resume. That allowed me to get work because the film was seen by some artists, some recording artists, and I ended up directing music videos. And I ended up directing 100 music videos. And I had seen Chris Tucker do some stand-up and asked him to be in one of my music videos. And he remembered me when he was doing this movie, Money Talks, and hired me with the studio to direct Money Talks. And then I came up with the idea to put Chris and Jackie in a film together. I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. Actually, one of the first Hong Kong movies that I ever seen was Enter the Dragon. And the opening shot of Rush Hour is the same shot of the opening shot of Enter the Dragon, but it's at night. It's from the exact same place. I found out where they shot it from, and it's the view of Hong Kong and the harbor. So it's right out of Enter the Dragon. Yeah, and that's. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee because of Enter the Dragon. But then as I discovered Jackie Chan films, my love kind of switched over to Jackie. I was the biggest fan of his. I'd seen all his movies, and I loved him. I mean, I thought he was one of the greatest performers and comedians I had ever seen in my life. And it was a dream come true getting to work with him, actually. And I just thought the combination of his physical comedy with Chris's verbal comedy would make a great combination. And that's why I pursued him. And I flew to South Africa to have lunch with him just to convince him to do Rush Hour. When I went to meet him, I was so nervous because I read all these articles about him that said he hates American directors and he hates the American way of filmmaking. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. But I felt like I was enough of an aficionado of the Hong Kong style that I understood, the way those movies were made. So I was able to articulate to Jackie, I'm going to let you concentrate on the action. I'm going to concentrate on the story and the comedy. The verbal comedy. You deal with the action. So he felt very comfortable, I think, when we first started because I didn't interfere in his kind of choreography. And I said, this is what I want for the story. I want a beginning, middle, and end. I want you to walk in this room, beat up these 10 guys, and you can use this pool table, pool cue, you can use the ball, you can use this chandelier. As long as at the end of the scene, all these guys are on the floor, I don't care how you do it. And then he started involving me very much in the process, just from the act of actually shooting it. We became like a great team because I was always watching his back, and he kept giving me more and more and more and more and more. Jackie is a total perfectionist, and what I try to do really is he would shoot a scene. He could do a 20-minute fight sequence without just blinking an eye. And I said, we got to take those 20 minutes and put it into the best 2 minutes and focus on that. So I was there really to sit on him. I said, be as creative as you want, go as far as you want to go, but I'm going to try to narrow it down because American audiences have a very different attention span, And I love watching a 20-minute fight sequence, but American audiences want more of a storyline. I knew Jackie and Chris were gonna hit it off the minute that I introduced them because I was sitting in the room and Jackie's talking, and Chris looks over to me and goes, I don't understand a word he's saying. Jackie, he doesn't speak English, does he? And then when Chris left, Jackie said, I like Chris Tucker, but he don't speak good English, right? I don't understand. So I knew that the two of them together, because the fact that they didn't understand each other was going to make a great combination. And when we were shooting the movie, I used that in the movie. Whenever Jackie was speaking and Chris didn't understand, I would say, Chris, say it. And Chris would go, you don't speak English, do you? So we used that actually in the film. I remember it was the time we were doing this big stunt in the beginning of the movie. It was at the end of the movie, but we were shooting in the beginning of shooting, and he was going to fall 150 feet from the rafters, and it took all day to talk. We had to coordinate it. We had to talk about it. We had to, send a weight that weighed the same thing as Jackie, so to see if the cable would hold it. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And Jackie was like, he was so frustrated and so disgusted with the process because Jackie would just go up there and jump. He doesn't care about the cables. He doesn't care about the safety net at the bottom. He doesn't care about anything. He'll just do it. And because, we couldn't afford to have him get hurt on our movie, especially myself, if this guy got, God forbid, hurt on my movie, I would have the entire International Jackie Chan fan club put a hit out on me. So I was very sure to be very careful, very safe, because Jackie, not that he's not safe, he just doesn't, he's fearless. But sometimes accidents happen. So it took all day, and they had to discuss it. The bond people had to come down. The insurance people had to come down. They had to see if it was safe, if it was okay. And Jackie was very frustrated in the process. But I think by now, since after doing Rush Hour 1, Rush Hour 2, Shanghai Nights, Shanghai Noon, I think he's gotten used to that. Process really is me looking at the script and saying, okay, Jackie, this is what's supposed to happen, okay? You walk into this room. You beat up these guys. These are what you can use. Maybe he'll even have an idea. Can you make a chair out of, softer material, or a briefcase out of this? He'll come up with other prop ideas. But as far as the choreography is concerned, I don't care if it's a punch or a kick. All I care about is that the story is being told. And now Jackie can add 100 punches in a matter of 10 seconds. So I tell Jackie, please, let's make sure that every punch means something. Every punch is important. And usually if you watch his movies, a lot of his choreography is done, without any kind of character, meaning he's grabbing everything in the room, which is a distinctive Jackie Chan style. It's not thoughtless kind of fighting. It's stuff that he'll grab and use anything around him. So knowing that, I'll pick a set piece, like a massage parlor, where there's, wood things to massage you with, there's these massage chairs, there's towels, and we'll use everything, utilize every single thing, even if it's not written in the script, that's in that room to help with the fight sequences. I think it was because I was such a big fan of his movies. I know when he had worked with other previous American directors, they didn't know who Jackie Chan was. They just knew he was this Chinese guy who was a kung fu artist. I understood, what he was capable of. I've seen him do dramatic things in movies, have dramatic moments. I've seen him do great physical comedy. I've seen him, do every type of, emotional moments. I've seen him, I recognize what he was capable of. And I was able to bring, because I would reference his movies. Okay, remember in Police Story Part 2, Jackie, when he goes, oh yeah, so I was able to direct him, I think, better than the other directors because they didn't really know who he was. They didn't have the reference. I had the reference of all his movies. So I was able to utilize that to articulate. And he directed most of those movies, so he knew what I was after. And that it was helpful in getting him to do, I think, the great job that he did. I wanted to make him cool because Jackie was so cool to me. So I dressed him up in a cool suit. I gave him a new hairdo. He had that haircut where, it was like I forgot what it's called, like a bowl cut kind of and I said, why do you have that hair? Because when I fight it moves. And I said, yeah, but we got to do something cooler than that. He goes, I never cut my hair. Last time I cut my hair, I almost died. I go, don't worry, I'm good luck. You're not going to die on this movie. So I got him to make his hair really cool. He's a very attractive, handsome guy. So I wanted to show that part of him. I wanted to show who he really was and not make him kind of a goofy Chinese guy, a foreigner coming over. I said, Hong Kong is a cosmopolitan city. I said, I want to show how cool Jackie Chan really is. He has a huge cult following, but I think what Rush Hour's done is Rush Hour's introduced him to a whole other audience. I mean, between the two movies, they've made, $350, $400 million. So what I loved about Rush Hour is that it introduced Jackie Chan to people who hadn't seen his movies before. And that was very exciting for me. And now, he's one of the biggest stars in the world, and especially in the United States. He's getting the same salary that the biggest movie stars are getting. For a foreigner to come over to the United States and have such success, he's truly a role model, not only for Asians, but for people of all minorities from all over the world to come. He's the American dream. It was very hard for Jackie when Chris was ad-libbing because Jackie remembers his lines and the last word of Chris's line, and that word would never come because Chris would always mix up his lines or say it in a different way, and Jackie 90% of the time would be like, where's my cue? And I'd be like, Jackie, and he'd be like, oh, and he'd say it, but it wouldn't always make sense. So I was kind of like the interpreter for both these guys, I would make sure that the English aligned and made sense. I was in Hong Kong actually with Chris Tucker for the premiere in Hong Kong of the first Rush Hour, and we got lost. We got in a cab because we couldn't speak the language, and Chris just started pulling out a lot of money and saying, "Do you understand this? You know, does this help you understand where we were trying to go?" And it was just the funniest thing seeing Chris coming from a completely different world, trying to communicate with these Chinese cab drivers was so funny. And we would went into, like, for instance, a karaoke bar, and Chris started singing Michael Jackson, and they were looking like they were insulted, like, how can he disgrace, because they take singing very, very serious, and he was being funny. He wasn't. He loves Michael Jackson, but they were like completely like stone faced. I'm like, oh, we're gonna get shot in here, Chris. We better get the hell out of here. And that's how we came up with the idea for that action sequence. Every scene, he's like, all right, we've already done this before. How do we top this? It challenged us. I think it helped us make a better movie. It was like, being with your friends. It's like dancing with a girl that you go on a first date with. You might step on her toes, but if you're dancing with your wife, you know just by looking in her eyes which way she's going to move. So Jackie, Chris, and myself really had a great camaraderie. We had a great chemistry together, and that's why we're able to do such a better sequel. A movie that people say, is better than the first. Hong Kong is amazing because every direction you shoot in is interesting. There's nothing that you can't shoot that doesn't have history, that doesn't have texture, that doesn't have color. So it's like shooting in New York City, really, but I mean, even better, I think. Hong Kong is one of the greatest cities in the world to shoot because every direction you put the camera in, even if it's not an interesting face, you're getting an amazing background. You really are. So yeah, it was really fun shooting there. I thought the local crews were incredible because I don't know how many movies are made there, but hundreds upon hundreds. And for years and years, movies have been made in Hong Kong. The film industry there is thriving, and the crews are some of the best crews I've ever worked with in the world. I mean, these guys, because, action cut is a universal symbol, a universal language. There's a universal understanding of action and cut, and these guys have so much experience, and they work so hard. There's no director's chairs. No one sits down when they're working. They eat lunch out of a box, and they eat it like in 15 minutes, and they're the hardest working crews I've ever worked with in the world. I mean, it looked like it was a lot of fun, but you're only seeing the moments of fun. But it was fun, actually, because everyone loved each other. Everyone liked each other. Everyone enjoyed working together. So that was the vibe, and that was going on the set. But ultimately, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, I can't remember any kind of funny. I mean, every day was fun. Every day was funny. Every day stuff was happening that was really adding to the enjoyment of making the movie. I'm always surprised by the success of my films. I mean, I know when I show the movie to an audience how much people like it, but I don't realize, I never know going in what the box office is going to be. And when it was the biggest opening ever in the history of any comedy, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But I'm very proud of it. I'm happy for Jackie. I'm happy for Chris. I'm happy for everybody involved because that helps everybody. And they deserve it. They did an amazing job. I mean, without them, I couldn't have made such a great movie. It's nothing new, really, because buddy movies have gone back into history. I mean, Butch and Sundance was a buddy movie, a buddy comedy, really, with drama in it. But the truth is that I think people love seeing fish out of water characters. People, the underdogs winning. All the heroes are ethnic. They're either black, Chinese, or Hispanic. And it's time that we saw some heroes that were other than the white all-American. Tom Cruise and those type of Tom Hanks or heroes. These types of heroes. And I think that Kung Fu is a big part of youth culture. Pop culture. Actually, it started with urban culture. I was a big fan of rap music and hip hop, and all these black kids would just go to Kung Fu movies, and I'd be the one white kid in the theater watching these Kung Fu movies. And I think when urban culture crossed over to pop culture and white kids started dressing like black kids, they got a piece of that. They got a taste of Kung Fu. And now it's a huge part of the mainstream. Every movie, I mean, Shrek has a martial arts sequence in it. Charlie's Angels, every movie that is an action movie has some martial arts in it. So I'm very happy that it is now part of pop culture and part of the mainstream because it's a fun art, martial arts. Rush Hour 3 will start in New York because all Rush Hours have always started where the last one ended. and they were getting on a plane at the end of Rush Hour 2 to go to New York, and that's where it's going to start. But where they're going to go is where both Jackie and Chris are fish out of water. In the first movie, Chris was in L.A., and Jackie came to L.A., and he was the fish out of water. In the second movie, Chris went to Hong Kong, and he was the fish out of water. In this movie, both are going to be fish out of water, and what better place to be fish out of water than France, because neither of them speak the language, you know? So I'm really excited about putting them in France. And the movie's in development. I mean, we're working on the script, and as soon as the script comes in, we're going to decide when we're going to start shooting. The difference between, say, Rush Hour 1 and Rush Hour 2 is Rush Hour 1 had more heart. Rush Hour 2 had more action, you know? Maybe was somewhat funnier, you know? Jackie was funnier because he spoke much more, you know? I think we're just going to take it to another level. I think we're going to bring back more of the heart, because I think that's what really makes Rush Hour special, because you really care about these characters. And that's something that we're always going to keep, is the chemistry between these two guys, you know. We're just going to introduce great new villains. That's what really makes a movie work, is the weight of the villains. And we're going to, you know, I don't think anything that we're going to do is going to, it's something that you've never seen before, but it's definitely going to be something you've never seen before with Jackie and Chris. That's for sure. Unlimited budget, cast of my choice. What would my dream movie be? Oh my God. That's the hardest question I've ever been asked. Jesus. I would just get every, like, young, hot comedian and every maybe legendary actor and put them in a movie together, because they don't have a lot of opportunities, and introduce all these legendary older guys that, you know, maybe aren't working or just kind of like at the end of their careers, and reintroduce them to young kids, you know, with the use of a Chris Tucker, Adam Sandler, those guys, so they can really go back and look at those old movies and really appreciate them and say, who's that guy? You know, that guy did, you know, It's a Wonderful Life or whatever, you know, look back at those old movies. So maybe I would do something like that. I don't know. I never thought I'd have an unlimited budget, so I've never thought about that question. My favorite Jackie Chan movie is Police Story Part 2. But I've taken things from Project A. I've taken things from Drunken Master. I mean, not specific fight sequences, but I mean, I forgot what movie I took the bamboo fight from. That was in a Jackie Chan movie. Every single scene that you've seen in Rush Hour is you could find some detail, if not a scene, from another Jackie Chan movie, because of my references, you know. Whether it's the bamboo fight, or if it's him going from car to, you know, from bus to a car, or hanging off a sign, or you know, anything. I mean, you know, swinging, you know, jumping from one building to the next, swinging off a building. Everything. There's nothing that Jackie hasn't done. It's just in Rush Hour we kind of try to reinvent it and make it kind of fresher. I love action comedies, you know. And I go by the script. I'm not really looking for a specific genre. I mean, I'd love to make a musical, but I'm not saying, okay, I don't have a plan. Like, oh, I'm going to do a historical film, or I'm going to do a dramatic film. I read a script, and if the script speaks to me, if it's something that I could bring to it, then I'll direct it. So I don't really have a plan for my future. I just plan on continuing to make movies.
I am a big Bruce Lee's fan, and I started to learn martial arts when I was 12. I never think about, you know, working in the movie business. It's just like my hobby. And in 1979, when I went to visit Shaw Brothers Studio, and Mr. Director Lo Jialiang is shooting a movie in the Shaolin Temple, whatever, I can't remember the name. And then I went to visit, and he knows that I can play martial arts, so he asked me if I can perform the home boxing, the tiger and crane style, you know, in front of him. So I did that, and I do a few, you know, acrobatic move, and then he asked me if I want to be an actor. And I don't know if I can be an actor, so he was telling me, if you want to be an action star like Bruce Lee, then you have to start as a stuntman. So I went back and told my mom, and I would like to be involved in the movie business, but which she doesn't want me to. And so I then start to do part-time stuntman and work a couple years, and then I broke my shoulder, both of my ribs, my back, and then until I realized that it's too dangerous. Then I worked behind the screen as a script supervisor, assistant director, production manager, camera operator, then stunt coordinator, director, and producer. Back in early 1980s, you know, being a stuntman is much more dangerous than right now, because back then we don't really have pads, you know. And what we have, sometimes we just rip some cartoon box, you know, the paper box, and stick it in the back, so we do a backflip and falling onto the ground, and just a little pad like that, you know, and put something stucking into our stomach, and when we get kicked, you know, and that's how we started. And also we've been working with many different stunt coordinators, and most of the stunt coordinator back then, their background is good martial artists, but they're not really into learning movie making. There's no safety people there, you know, and we just like do as they told us to. And I remember one time that, you know, I haven't slept for 7 days straight, and then I have to perform a stunt jumping on the trampoline and then do 2 double flip, you know, on the side and hit the wall and fell down. And that time I put all the pads at the back, and then I do the last jump. Once I do the jump, I turn around, I hit my ribs. I didn't turn enough, and so my ribs was crashed into the rocks, and then I fell onto the ground. And that I know that it's already cracked, and I couldn't talk for 15 minutes, and I couldn't have a voice, you know. And my stunt coordinator wanted to change another guy to do it, and I just worried to lose my job, so I was saying, could you give me 15 minutes and let me try again? And then I try again, you know, 3 more times, and then the camera operator, you know, can follow. The last couple of times they cannot follow. So in the early stage, like in 1980s, there's not much stunt woman in the industry. I remember there's only maybe one of them, but she's already an actress, and we don't really have, you know, stunt woman, because nobody really wants to get into the business because it was so dangerous. But it started to people like not only watching guys fighting, and they start to like to watch female fighting, like Michelle Yeoh is very popular, and then she started to fight. But we always make her fight, you know, better than a guy. And then but she's still a woman, you know, and she's very feminine. And so sometimes that we have to do the double and do some of the action, the stunts that not physically a woman can do, you know. And so we would choose like somebody who's thinner or shorter, you know, stuntman to do the stunt double. Back then I was a lot thinner, so I was always get called to double for women. I was the acting director and the action director, you know, for 2 movies, and then I decided to produce my own movie, Stone Age Warriors, which I shot in New Guinea and Japan and Indonesia. There's a critic was comparing Stone Age Warriors with Armor of God, you know, and Operation Condor. Then they would say if the action sequence with the tribes, then if it's not as good, you know, is like equal to the Jackie Chan's action. And because of that critics, you know, Ratner Ho, which is our producers, and in Golden Harvest, and he invited me to go into Golden Harvest, and we have a nice talk, and then he started to introduce me to Jackie Chan, you know, the head of distribution, head of publicity, you know, Jackie's scriptwriter, manager, everybody. And then 1 week later, he asked me if I want to direct Jackie in Police Story 3. And I was shocked, and I didn't know why you want me to direct, because Jackie been direct all his movie all along. And then I start to realize that Golden Harvest want to have more of Jackie Chan's movie. So Jackie, to be an actor, but he was so experienced and that he can help the directors. So that he asked me to direct the movie and also to do the stunt coordinating as well. And I just couldn't give the answer, in 2 weeks. I said, well, let me think about it. And back then my manager was pushing me, you should do it, like this is the first time that Jackie, wants somebody to be a director. And so I looked over all his movie again and again, and I found it's very difficult to do a Jackie Chan's movie because he himself already, did so many good action sequence, He's the top, I'm a big fan, and I just don't know how can I do it. Because when you do a Jackie Chan's movie, first of all, whatever he's done before, you cannot repeat. Otherwise, it's not flashy. If Jet Li or Bruce Willis, Stallone, everybody, any one of them, did the sequence you cannot do. Otherwise, it looks like you are following the footstep. And that is already very difficult. But at the same time, with Jackie Chan's action, you also have to have humor, and the story can put together, with all this big action set piece. But at the same time, it needs to connect it in a story, and that is the most difficult part. So when I received the script, the original script, which is about a robbery, about a jewelry store in Nathan Road in Hong Kong, then I start to scratch my head. I don't know how can I do it better than Police Story 1 and Police Story 2, which this is like two of my favorite Jackie's movie. And then I start to think about, why don't we try something different? Because have a very good relationship with Michelle and working with her, so I decided to propose the idea of having the best male action star and then the best female action star the first time, put them together as a team. And Leonard Ho really likes the idea, and Jackie likes the idea. We don't have, the luxury of visual effects. All the things that we do with Jackie, you have to be able to physically, he has to be able to physically do it, and we have to be able to physically shoot it on the set. Otherwise, we couldn't do it. So that locks into a lot of difficulty in doing a Jackie's movie. After we worked together in Super Cop, Jackie win his first Best Actors Award in Golden Horse Award. And I remember he would thank me for I'm like a lucky star to him. First time I direct him, we got the Best Actor. But I would say it's always good to have a second opinion, to have a person, to look at his acting, and also I can do the job of directing, so he could be more relaxed. When he's more relaxed and looking at what I did, then he can also giving me back his opinion, to make things better, So that's how make things work well, and because I love to watch American films, and since I was a kid, so in Super Cop I changed it to direct sound, and the first time in Jackie's movie, Hong Kong movie, into direct sound, and also first time into Dolby Stereo. Before it's mono, it's not direct sound, because the reason is, well, sometimes when we fight, we might have the camera speed changing, and also it's people been dubbing for so long. Why we have to spend extra amount of money into dubbing the direct sound? But I always feel that when I watch an American movie, that I can really going into the picture, because all the sound effects, and all the direct sounds element brings me as an audience into the picture. Both me and Jackie were surprised, and we were so happy that Rumble in the Bronx can have such an international success. And the reason why we make Rumble in the Bronx the way it is after I did Super Cop, and Columbia Picture came over to Hong Kong, and they would like to see me, and he telling me that he really liked the movie, the action, the style, the story, and the actors are very well. Jackie is great. Michelle is great. Even though the villain is great. But the problem is, like, I believe the American audience will like it. That's what he said. But we don't distribute, a dubbing movie. We don't distribute movie with subtitle. You won't have a broad release. You might only have a few theaters release. So it's hard for us to do it, but with the same kind of action, same kind of tone and style. Could you do a movie in English? And with that compliment, say how much they like it from American point of view. So I went back and talked to Jackie and talked to the studio, Golden Harvest, and why don't we do a movie in America? And we talk to each other in Chinese. When we talk to American, we speak in English. And the world is getting smaller, everybody understand that. So we should try this. But at the beginning, they were very skeptical about this, from changing to direct sound, and now you want to change into English. Would it be too big of a leap? What if it doesn't work? Because there's been a lot of Hong Kong movie and trying to break into international market, and they would put a few Caucasian or African American actors in there and speak a few lines of English, but end up the movie not successful in Asia, at the same time not successful in international market, and they just worry that we might fall into the same trap. But I was strongly suggested to do that because I believe the American audience will love Jackie, and if we can do something and make a story there, but the style has to change. You see, Rumble in the Bronx, the style have been changing from the old Jackie's movie, even though it's different from Super Cop. It was a little bit more humor in a way that I think the American will understand, because American audience like to do the hardcore action, but our action movie have great stunts, which I would say there's no American actor can do a better stunt than Jackie, and also Jackie have the charisma that when he do humor, his timing, and he have the charisma, and to do that, it's a very special gift that Jackie have that which nobody have, and so that's something that we can make him very special. At the same time, and not only doing stunts, we put in the action sequence with the hovercraft, with the cars. That is kind of the convention action, which American action movie that they always have. And then so we have the physical stunt work, good choreography, fighting with the humor, and perhaps we also have the big action sequence. So this is a combination of everything, of East and West, put together, and it was a very good experience, and we break a lot of records in China, Hong Kong, in Asia, and at the same time become the first one to break into America. So I will always say that making movies sometimes you never know, and then you just have to keep trying and trying, and until you get there. Every time I watch this movie, when I get off the theater, I feel like doing exercise. I feel like floating my arms and legs around, and I just like the excitement, and I admire him because I learned martial art knowing that the stunt that he did, you need a lot of energy. You must be strong and tough, and be very accurate. And he's keep taking his risks, and I really admire him. But when I start working with him, then I start to realize why he has to do it. Because he is a person that always wants to do something better and better. He keep try to walking up, up, up. He never looked down. So he never tried to look back of what he did. Every time, next movie, I want to do something new. I want to do something better, and I think that's keep him going for so long and getting really doing better and better. And I think the two of us work so well together is because we have the same background. Start as the stuntman, become stunt coordinator, and become director. And we share the same birthday, same character, and he has a lot of energy, and I think I have a lot more patience. And so sometimes, working with Jackie, you cannot just tell him what to do. Sometimes you have to show him how it works. It's doable. But at the same time, sometimes when he is tired, or when he doesn't really want to do something, sometimes you have to push him. Sometimes you have to, do something and make him, like to get up and do it. And I think in that sense that we get along very well, and that's why when I push him, and he always wears a smile. I think when I come to direct Jackie, is most important is like I've been studying him a lot. I'm a big fan, and I know his strength. And out of all the movie, I know why the audience likes him, in what way, and when you look at the movie that I direct Jackie, his character actually changed a little bit. He is more like an underdog. He doesn't want to be a hero, and he's more like a reluctant hero. The more reluctant he is, when he starts to come into the action, and you can really see the contrast of the person, and then you appreciate him more. And which because I know Jackie, and in his movie I try to fit in his own character into the movie's character. So he not necessarily need to play too much of the character inside the movie. So he is more relaxed. And also to me, I come to direct Jackie. I don't want to do a movie. Oh, this is not a Jackie Chan movie. This is a Stanley Tong movie. I don't think like that. I just trying to see how can I make a Jackie Chan's movie, better, and how can I can improvise, like what I've seen. And I think I study in Canada. I've been, like to travel around the world, and that's why when you look at the movie that I work with Jackie, I always go, all over the world. Rumble in the Bronx, First Strike, Super Cop. I like to travel because I see Jackie's movie is not about inside a room and we try to choreography thing inside a restricted area. It should be big sequence. It should be something wide open. And because Jackie, his own character, is a character like that. And so all these little things, I try to put it together into his movie. And I think that is the difference, and also why we work so well together. The other thing I think is all the other director other than Sammo, and they all are director. And so when it comes to the action sequence, is Jackie Chan shoot the action sequence, he becomes the director. But you know, look at Jackie's movie, almost like 55% to 60% is involved in action, you know. Even though sometimes his drama, you know, you can see a little bit of action here and there, you know. And that's why when other directors work with Jackie, and they might have, you know, problems that they don't really, even though in editing they won't be able to cut the whole movie, you know, and then Jackie will cut, you know, most of it. And so when you have two people, you know, cutting a movie with a different style, and sometimes you always have some problems there. But to me, when I do it, I doing the action and the drama together. So when I put together, and then it will have the same tone. CBS was like invite me, Les Moonves invite me to have a meeting, and in the meeting he told me that he really likes the Jackie's movie, because in American television, you know, like people are against violence, you know, because a lot of the violent TV series, people are protest about that, you know, they have problem with that. But with the Jackie Chan style, with a lot of action, but it's no violence, it's funny, and it would be great, you know, if we can do it in American television. And I thought, well, I think, well, that's great, you know, and see if we can get Jackie to do television. And of course, Jackie's doing movie, and knowing that doing American television, you have to sign at least 6 years, you know, like to be, if you are chosen to be the lead. And that is the kind of the system kind of stop there, and that he doesn't want to do it. And so, but who's next? Asking me if I can get an American actor to do the style. And I start to realize that I don't think it will work, because like the schedule that I have to do an Jackie Chan's movie, I have 110 days to shoot the whole movie, including, you know, second unit. But in a television, we only have 7 shooting days, you know, for an hour. And of course, the studio might want to have more action, like the movie standard. And if I have an actor that doesn't have the proper training, how can I, you know, give as much, you know, on screen with that kind of schedule? You know, how can I fit into the system? So I convinced them, can we try a Hong Kong Chinese actor? And then who I have in mind, I say Sammo. You know, Sammo, you know, is the Kung Fu brother, you know, of Jackie Chan, coming out from the same school. You know, he have the great talent of action and comedy, and I believe the American audience will like him. You know, especially his size, you know, look more like a lot of American, you know, people, and yet he can do a lot of, you know, great stunts, and they like the idea. And I shoot the pilot, just half an hour pilot, and they like it, and we have martial law. I remember the first time I convinced Sammo at Four Seasons Hotel in Los Angeles. And it took me 2.5 hours to convince him to do the show, because he said, acting, I have no problem. Humor, I have no problem doing it. Fighting, I have no problem. But my problem is I don't speak English. And I was telling him that don't worry, I think we will get somebody to teach you English, and I'll get people 8 hours a day, you know, teaching you English. And when I shoot, I won't shoot the master shot. I will break it into pieces, and you know, if you can't do it, I can do the dubbing later, you know. So you're not to worry. So at the beginning of the show, he was more conscious about his dialogue, you know. When it come to fight, I already choreography everything, you know, for him, and so he's more easy, and you know. But as the show goes on, as his, you know, English speaking better and better, and he's more relaxed, and then he spent much more time in helping us to choreography and improvise about the fight, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, like we've been able to get the best of Sammo into the series. He's very similar to Jackie in a way that They both are very smart. They can also choreography. And when you talk to them, and you don't really need to waste too much time, you know, like you say 1, 2, they know 3, 4, you know. It's very easy to work with them, but at the same time, is you give the director a lot of pressure to work with them because they're so smart, you know. So you cannot BS them. So whatever you want to tell them, you have to come, you know, straightforward, and also you have to do your prep, you have to do all your work, and make sure that he understands, and it's great, you know. I'm so glad that I've been able to work with Jackie, Sammo, and Michelle. They both are, you know, great, you know, action stars from Hong Kong. I remember the first time I shooting the pilot, and I have a choreography that has Sammo, you know, running on top of a car, you know, on the top of the car, and suddenly he do a backflip, you know, down to the ground and fight again, and that is the day the executive producer came on set. You know, my producer partner came on set, and he never seen Sammo, you know, and also with the a studio executive, you know, from CBS, you know, they were there. They all sitting there. Suddenly, see Sammo flip down and they say, "Hey, Stanley, did you see that?" I say, "Yeah. What's the problem?" Say, how can he do that? I say, "This is Sammo," you know. And I thought that, you know, this is too dangerous. Why don't we have stunt double for him? I say, "That's why you have Sammo for. He's the stunt double himself. You know, why you need another stunt double?" And that's I remember, yeah. And that night, you know, like both of them is like shocked about this. I think the CG did help the movie making right now, but when I do Super Cop, I remember when I tried to have a shot that with the motorcycle, you know, jumping, and we have cables on the motorcycle, but like we don't have CG wire removal. What do? We go chop 2 trees and put it at the background. We paint it black and we do it. But like with all the other movies that I work with Jackie, and because we try to, you know, make it, you know, like real, as realistic as it could be. And when I do First Strike, I do China. When I do China Strike Force, and there's a scene that our actors and actresses are fighting on a piece of glass up on a 54th floor, which I did it for real in the live action. And for a lot of American producers, when they saw it, they thought that it was like it was a CG with green screen, and you know, we put the backgrounds in. But knowing that I didn't do it in that way, and the more they look at the footage, the more scary and it looked real that it is. And to me, sometimes some of the technology that we wanted to do, and especially all this top shot, you know, with CG, with green screen, we always think that we could do it, you know, but if you do it for real, it's really different. So when you look at China Strike Force, you know, everybody, you know, like the hand is sweating because knowing that this is real. But if you do CG, you know, no matter how good it is, sometimes you can still tell the difference. And I would say, when you do action movie, it really depends on where you try to go. You know, sometimes, you know, like if you want to make it real, you have to take the risk, you know, of, you know, having the dangers to hurt your actors, or you can go CG, you know, and CG the whole thing, and so your actor will be safe. But unfortunately, that the actors that I chose and I work with, like Jackie, he doesn't like CG. He likes to do it for real. The West like Hong Kong style action. First of all, it's different. It's fresh compared to American action. I think right now you look at the American movie, you can see in every action movie, you can see the shadow of Hong Kong action style, the fighting, the choreography. And Hong Kong action movies' difference is because we have the martial arts culture, acrobatic culture, Peking opera culture, and also because Hong Kong is a very small city with 6.5 million people, and we're not allowed to block the street and do the gun shooting and car chasing, helicopter stuff. So when we don't have those kind of big convention actions, then how are we going to compete with Hollywood picture in the international market? So we end up, doing fighting inside a studio. We keep choreography fighting. Every movie it needs at least about 35 to 40 minutes of action. But we don't have car chase, we don't have gun shooting. Then what do we have? Then we only have arms and legs and fight. So all the choreographer been choreography about hands and legs fist fighting for so long, and that it makes us become the expert. It's the training that we have no choice, that we have to force ourselves into doing physical fighting. And that's why, like when it comes to Hong Kong choreographer, start to do the hand-to-hand combat fighting, it's more exciting, it's more real. And I think the Hong Kong actors have more basic in training. And that's why when you look at the movie, it's different. I think the pressure is also, it helps, when you don't have the budget, but any movie you make, anywhere you release, your competitor is Hollywood big movie, anywhere in the world. So it's very hard for Asian, filmmaker, that to make movie, especially when we're trying to Hong Kong, try to make action movie. It's very difficult now. First of all, most of the talent, they all went to Hollywood and work in Hollywood. And we don't have young talent that we have a system to develop the new talent. So when you look at the Hong Kong action movie right now, I would say it's very hard to find, the good action movie as it was 10 years ago. The last 2 years I've been in China and establishing my company, together with Shanghai Film Studio. We're building up the Shanghai International Film Studio to produce international, project with the Chinese film. And I produced some TV drama. Last year I produced 60 hours of TV drama. And I'm doing the next Jackie Chan's movie starring end of May. And we'll be shooting in Hong Kong, China, India. And after that, then I will produce another 2 more films. And beginning of next year, after Jackie finished Rush Hour 3, then I have to direct another Jackie Chan's Hong Kong action picture.